Like I'm crooked.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to our virtual gathering for Ayelet Baron's Fuck the Bucket List book number 1. I just love saying this because I learned last week that I won't get kicked off for actually saying it. I don't need to type it like it's on the cover of the book. And this is really, really about discovering the wonder of you. And today, not only do we have Ayelet, the author, with the universe here with us, but we also have Lynnda Polio, who is another dear friend and author of mine, and she wrote Trusting the Currents, which is a fiction book that I have gained so much from being a nonfiction reader that it was just amazing. So I am so glad for both of them to be here today and have this conversation. I will jump in a little bit. I'm going to be more behind the scenes controlling stuff. So I do want you to know, if you are interested in joining on camera or asking a question, please be sure to if you're on Facebook, give Facebook permission to use your comments and we can pull them on screen. But if you're interested in getting on camera, just send me a message. Let me know. We'd love to pull you in and get you on camera and have a conversation with Ayelet and Lynnda and discuss it, even if you haven't read the book yet, if you just have a question. So, and if you see across the bottom of the ticker, we do have a special giveaway. If you are somebody in need or know of somebody who this book would resonate with, who might be in need, just let us know, and we are going to be giving away a book. So just let us know, and we'll take care of that. So with that, I'm going to get off screen and turn it over to you, Ayelet, and let you kind of get things kicked off from your end.
Thanks, Tim. You're just amazing. Love it. I'd love to have more people jump on the screen for a conversation, because this is why we're here. And already see some comments there. So hello, everybody. And I am just excited as hell because I wrote a book called With the Word Fuck, which everybody's surprised at. But I'm excited about what's possible in our world today. Some people think we're in some of the toughest times, and we're actually in some of the most amazing times in history. We were born to trek into the unknown and find our own power and stand in our voice. And I'd love to have more conversations as we go, because for me, it's about building the community of pioneers, the people that are really ready to step out of the stories and the decaying paradigms and models that we have and create a healthy life for ourselves, each other, and the planet. So I am so excited to have Lynnda here. Lynnda was one of my first endorsers of the book as well. I love Trusting the Currents. Her voice and Addie Mae's voice, she'll tell you more about it, are part of all 3 of the books in the trilogy, because this is what life is about, is how connected we are and how our work needs to come together rather than be the best in the world. It's about really building the community and being pioneers together. So, hey, Lynnda, thanks for being here. Maybe you could give us some of your wisdom.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this. I'm really excited because I know that you've been on a long journey with this, and I understand that journey well. It's been so interesting to watch you evolve over the time that you started the book, and kind of where you came from, and the unknown that you kind of were brave enough to jump into, and you changed your complete life to write this book. And I know that feeling, and I know it's not easy. So as I was someone that was, privy to that experience, I'm very honored to be part of the birth of this now. And it's an important book. I think particularly right now, as everyone is going through these gigantic changes in their lives, and they really don't really know where we're going. We have our belief systems, and we have the truths that we believe to be true, but those truths are kind of like a prism. It depends on what direction, what angle you look at them. And I think what the bucket list does is it helps sort of bring, through your story. I think what I liked a lot about it was you started with your story, and at first I think, it's sort of like a memoir, and people like memoirs, don't like memoirs, But as you start reading your story, you start seeing yourself in your words, and that the vulnerability that you have brought into this kind of allowed my vulnerability to come out as I was reading it, and I saw the sort of the similar paths that we took. And I think a lot of people will see themselves in this book as they go through the process of, life is not really turning out the way I wanted it to be. I don't feel the same way as I want it to be, as I expect it to be, and I'm not really sure what to do. I don't have anyone around me that understands this, and I don't even quite understand this. So I think what this book does is it kind of grounds those feelings that people are having that are going through big changes, and it brings them really deep into parts of themselves that maybe they didn't expect to go and maybe not even wanted to go, but your writing of your story kind of gives them the courage. I really felt like when I was reading it that I was listening to the highest part of myself, also talking to me about my own fears and my own journey. And everyone is at a different place in that journey. But I got a lot.
We're getting some feedback, Joe. We're getting some feedback, and there we go. It's better.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, and I feel like it was it kind of reflected a lot of the experiences I was feeling, which were kind of freaking me out. So it was really nice to know that I wasn't alone in that feeling of being freaked out to a certain degree, and that we just have to kind of connect with each other and have conversations around the things that scare us, and find the people that are willing to be vulnerable with us, and not judge us. And I think this first of your 3 books, because I'm looking forward to your next 2, but the first one really sets the person out on that journey. And I don't know, it was a beautiful book. Yeah, I loved it. I was very honored to be part of it and be able to read it in its early stages and kind of express what my experience was with it.
Thank you so much. I mean, that really touches my heart, which is what I hope to do with this, because it's kind of hard because it's like for a lot of people, they think about it being a physical book, but for me, it's a journey. And I mean, that's what I felt with your book, Trusting the Currents, as I experienced it, is that there were like these big messages that were coming through, and it was more of an experience. And I think that in a very crowded field of books today, it's not easy because there's so many people trying to get their work out in the world, and I'd love for a way for us to bring our work together. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have, is that we don't know how to co-create. We don't know how to work together. We talk about, like, we have like all these online communities and groups and forums, but we forgot how to have conversation and dialogue and connect with each other, because we're always, I don't know why. I remember when I was at Cisco, and I went to my first of probably 100 personal branding sessions that we had that were all targeted as women. And I sat there confused about why there's so much focus on creating your personal brand. And when I was working in this big company where it was so important for us to come together, and for me, it wasn't about just shining on my own, but really being able to bring the team together and bring people together for the purpose of the company. And I think that this whole kind of branding thing, which I mentioned in the book, is something that started, from branding in your skin, and looking at a thing of ownership, kind of constricts us. And what I hope that we're able to do through this conversation, and I hope, Tim, I see Rosie and Lena and Ari, and I hope somebody is gonna jump on the screen in a minute to have more conversations with us, because I would love it. But that to me is where we're headed. And because people are so shy with technology, they don't want to get on the screen. They want to have a sense of perfection. And it's so limiting to us. And so having that vulnerability to share is so important. And I just envision a world where we're building off each other rather than competing.
Well, I think that is the only way we're going to continue on the planet, is if we find some way to, I mean, I'm very, and you are too, I'm very heart-based. For me, it's all about the heart. And if we can find ways to connect to the heart, even when we have differences, like I meet people all the time that I have nothing in common with. And what their belief systems are very different from mine. But once I recognize that they have a heart, and that heart is active, even though we may believe different things and we have different lifestyles, I think that once we're connected that way, you can work together and change everything. Because I think eventually we learn that what we believe has only been socially programmed into us, through our ancestry and through our childhoods and through, the communities that we grew up in and the religions that we were part of and the cultures that we were part of. But these books, your book, I mean, there's sort of three levels to it. There's the story, which is a lot of this first book is a lot of your story about how you came from being this, high-tech corporate executive to, opening up your heart and wanting to change the world in these meaningful ways and stumbling through that to a large degree. And then there's these messages that, we all can relate to, that are universal, that connect to our hearts and connect to our families and connect to really our own sense of identity. And then, there's a lot of sort of spiritual frequencies, sort of energetic frequencies embedded in the writing that, not everyone will recognize as that. But when they're reading it and they get to a point where all of a sudden there's this little vibration inside of them that just feels like truth. I think I encourage them to be reading it out loud, because I think there's a vibration in there that will really open them up to almost secrets that are embedded in that writing. That it's not just as simple as reading this book. There's a lot going on, and you probably have to read it more than once, and you probably have to read it every time.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think I'm just the messenger, and the book is really by the universe. Hey, Tim, what's going on? Hey, Ari, good to see you.
Hey. Yeah, Ari's going to join. And Lynnda, I don't know what it is. The last time you made that adjustment with your sound, it was fine. But as you keep talking, it gets progressively like almost this radio static in the background, which really makes it difficult to hear.
A lot of problems with electricity stuff. I make Waze go in different direction when I'm driving. I always tell people when I'm driving, don't listen to what Waze says, because if I'm in the car, it sends you in different directions. So let me see. How do you think I could try to save that? Should I get maybe closer? Is that possible? Or further away?
No, I'm not sure what it is actually. Yeah. Or do you have another device by it maybe that's picking, interfering with it? Or I don't know. It's really weird because it's not all the time. It just gradually builds up.
It's like the universe wants to jump in with its frequencies and vibrations and say hello.
I know. I tell you, I tend to have a lot of these kinds of problems.
I think Nikola Tesla is trying to tell us. I
have a lot of electrical energy. I walk around. I'm in Sedona, and everything I touch, I get shocked. And I thought that it was everybody until I realized I was speaking to people and no one else that was happening to. So sometimes when I get near technology, it does a little weird stuff. So let me see if I can figure it out. I could try to go off and try to get on again.
Well, you could always do that. Or if you're good at muting and unmuting, I can always just mute you if it gets too bad and you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I can mute. Why don't I mute?
Okay, well, sounds good.
Okay.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome, Ari.
Thank you. I just popped up just on my feed saying you were going live, and I was listening, and the more I read and the more I listened, I was like, wow, this is exactly where I need to be right now. And that alignment is, so great. And, and I'm so happy to see you guys face to face. I haven't seen Tim in a long time. Actually, I have one of those T-shirts. I don't know where it went, but it's a good T-shirt. Be good to people. And what you said really, a lot of the things that you said resonate. A lot of what's in the book resonates, and it's also kind of the bridges that I'm trying to help people make is to believe in their power as individuals, right? The pandemic has shown us how powerful individuals are, not only in how it spreads, but also in all the little things that people are doing for each other, right? And this, this concept of like asking for help, that's, sort of such the opposite of the perfectionism that you were talking about, right? Like, and I really think that at the core of the change that we're trying to make, that fundamental change, is really this reconciling ourselves with the reality that perfection is not achievable and it's not a real goal, and and that we really need to be compassionate enough with ourselves to say, hey, I'm made to need other people. I can't do everything myself. And if we can give people that's the ability to say, hey, I deserve the help. I can ask for it. I can be vulnerable in it, and vulnerability is important. Then we can really build these strong communities that are, building on all this help that people are willing to give each other. Like, for example, this laptop that I'm speaking to you on right now. I'm going through some rough times financially. My roommate, I had to decide whether I was renewing my lease at the end of April. My roommate moved out at the end of July, which was the end of the lease. But I still haven't found anyone. So I've been, struggling with that. And so I just turned, tonight's my Jewish Hebrew birthday, but I just turned 40 last week. And I'm starting to see gray at the hairline. What was I going to say? Yeah. And so I said, look, I have this laptop, it's dying. I don't have the resources to buy myself one. Does anyone have a laptop that I could use? And I said, my dream one would be the model that the model that I wanted was like a MacBook Air 2015, it's like a 5-year-old, not like a brand new anything. And within an hour, I had someone offering me the exact laptop that I wanted, and even for me, that's sort of like that and the, how amazing it was, the amazing response that I had, and realizing that I had such a great network that I was able, I've been able to raise quite a bit of money, and I'm sort of secure for the next 6 months, which is amazing, and it's a big sort of weight off my shoulders. And that's what I'm saying. It's just like there's this opportunity, and people don't understand that if I need something and you have it, and it's not a big effort for you to share it with me, that doesn't mean it's a valueless action. It's a huge thing because the person who needs it didn't have it and you gave it to them. And so, there's so much of that. And like, really, like you, I want to build the community. And I don't know how many of you know that I've been running Hug Train for 11 years. That's why Tim and I met. I think we have a picture in front of the New York Times. And I started running that for 11 years. Obviously, with COVID, it's not a good idea to travel around the country with a free hug sign. Or give hugs at all. Unfortunately, the value of hugs in our society has been very clear in how, in how important it is. How many articles have you seen about how to hug safely, or if it's okay to hug during a pandemic? It's there. That that is so important. And like, although hugs represent perfectly what I'm trying to achieve in the world, which is to stop hearing people say, "I'm just one person." Right. I mean, I'm just one person, and people sort of are just empowered by that. Some people are happy that they can, put the responsibility off to someone else. But at the same time, there are people who, I think, especially with everything that's happening right now, we have an epidemic of violence against Indigenous and Black people. We have the climate crisis. We have the pandemic. I mean, I'm sure there are so many other things, and it's it's so clear right now that our system doesn't work. Like you were saying, we have failing structures. And I really believe that if we are able to activate people and light them up and say, these are actually things you can do, that won't take you out of your day, that aren't going to cost you anything, but will have an impact. I think building that confidence and building that ability to be self-compassionate, right? And realize in the space of what's happening, I think it was Viktor Frankl who wrote the Search for Meaning. I think he was talking about, and I agree with him, and I found the quote after I realized it, but there's a space between stimulus and response. And if we cultivate that space, we can find compassion for ourselves and for others, and we can understand what's going on with ourselves better. And I think a lot of us, the thinkers that want to change the world, we're all up here. We're all trying to, but that's not the right place for our fulcrum, if you will.
Well, it's interesting too, because like I don't want to change this world.
Yeah.
I want this world to get off life support.
Yeah.
And the systems no longer support us. We need systems that support the vast majority of humanity, not the few. Yeah. And it's a time of opportunity, despite the list of everything that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I think we were born for this time. This is why I also say this body of work is not for everybody, because if you want to stay home and you want to blame and you want to judge and you want to feel, suffer, which a lot of people are, and I'm not saying, I mean, it's a reality. But when you step into your wonder, when you step into the ability to ask for help, like you mentioned, to reach out to others, then there's an opportunity to really say, how can I lead a healthy life? How can I bring other people into it and really create what we need? I mean, this is, for me, my dream is to find the 2% of the 7.7 billion people on the planet, and have, there are amazing people and amazing stories going on right now. Last week, we had Catherine on, who's revolutionizing education, and what this amazing woman is doing is just beautiful, but you never hear her story. You never hear the stories of all the people that are doing things. And if we could find each other, we can step out of this, because I think this whole notion of saving the world or saving someone, nobody wants to be saved or fixed. It's a delusion that we've created. Or making the world better. I mean, better than what? To me, it's about really helping each of us question everything, and then be able to understand what's healthy for you, what's toxic for you, in every area of your life. And I mentioned this last week, but it's just so important to me that our kids know, as kids, who is healthy and who is toxic, what we consume, because the more conscious that we can become about the choices that we make, the fuller our life can be. And so it's such an amazing opportunity to look at it. And for me, trusting the currents, from what Lynnda, you mentioned earlier, the whole notion of trusting the currents. It is so infused. I'm just finishing proofing the proofing of the second book. And I just was like, let me see how many times I talk about trusting the currents, because for me, Ari, as well, is what you've described is about trusting the currents. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that, because I think your book also has come from the universe, and there's a lot of vision and hope for anybody who's going through a tough time. So let's see how your mic's doing, Lynnda.
Yeah.
I think she decided to leave us instead of
hit the wrong button. But absolutely, the trusting of the currents. I mean, for me, honestly, until like a few weeks ago, I was going through a fog. Like, I would move forward, and there was no clarity around what to invest in myself in next. And Hug Train, as awesome as it is, was also sort of very difficult for me personally. And it was just, I didn't know what I was doing with my life. And I saw this big 4-0. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's also a big number coming. And I was like, what am I doing? And really, honestly, it's just biding your time, putting one foot in front of the other, and hey, welcome back, Lynnda. And and honestly, like, the ability to ask for help really, I think, unlocked a lot of things for me, and the ability to also reframe the narcissists that I've encountered with my life, and seeing them not as evil, people that are attacking weaknesses in me, but as people who are locked in a very toxic trauma response. And, and it's just so sad, but it also in the way sort of helps you walk away from that. And, it's super important to be able to weed those people out and respect your own boundaries. I think boundaries is a big, big, big one. And I think expectations come with that. And, that's why I was talking about that space that we create between stimulus and response. So I think, all of those things are super important, and I'm really inspired. I hope we can actually bring all of our work together, because I want to start a think tank to find more things to help people connect with their power that will actually make a difference. Anyway, over to you, Lynnda. I'm sorry you left us.
That's okay. Again, it just went bye-bye. But now I'm back. Can you repeat the question, Ayelet?
It's trusting the currents. For me, it's just become a way of life after experiencing your body of work. Maybe you could tell us a little bit of the story and help people right now through the transition.
Well, it was a very unexpected book. I didn't think I would ever write a book. I had no intention. I didn't really think about it. And then I started hearing the voice of an old Black Southern woman. And she was asking me to tell her story. And as you can imagine, it was a little odd and a little scary, but it felt very powerful and important. So I just started writing down, all the time. And for about a year, I just whenever I felt her presence, I would write down what she was saying. And it was stream of consciousness. She always picked up where she left off. And about a year into writing it, I finally got her name, and it was after the anniversary of the Birmingham church bombings, and the pictures of the 4 little girls were up there, and I saw Addie Mae Collins, and I just knew it was her. I don't think it was her in the spiritual sense, but I knew that somehow her spirit was infused in this. So the rest of the time I wrote the book, I had a photograph of Addie Mae Collins taped to my computer, and I wrote to her. And all the characters were African American, which I know is probably somewhat controversial now, but it was what it was. She was Southern and she was Black, and I try to honor that as much as possible. And she's actually been my biggest teacher. And while I was writing it, I really felt at the time it was a very mystical experience. The writing of the draft, first draft, which was channeled, was very mystical. And after she left, after the first draft, it became very unmystical because I had to do everything myself, and I didn't know anything about writing at the time. So it took me 8 years to edit the book and get it ready and decide what I was going to do with it. I never thought I was going to publish it, but I just felt this urge to publish it. But it really, it sort of became at first I thought I was the teacher, because there's so many lessons in this for people that are going through big change in their lives and who are kind of lost. And as she tells you her story, it's a novel, but as she tells you her story, she brings you into your own story. So you really feel this sort of intertwining of lives between this, unknown Southern African American woman and whoever you are. I've had readers from, white middle-class guys from New Jersey, and I recently heard from an Indian Sikh in London and a guy in Beirut, and she just speaks to people of different ages and different races and different religions, and pulls you into her story. But eventually it's ultimately a book about learning to trust the currents in your life, no matter where they're taking you. And part of that is about, similar to your book, it's about going inside. She forces you through listening to her story, which is set in the 1930s in the rural South, and it's sort of a coming of age story for her. But it's she forces you into your own story, to open your heart and to listen to what's in there. And that's where the secrets all are, and that's where if you take it to the rest of the book, you will find out things about yourself that you didn't know. I've had amazing reviews from people from all over the world who have been touched by her, and I've told Ayelet, and I think Ayelet will probably feel the same way about her book. I really feel like I was more the steward, And that, you know, for whatever reason, I would ask her all the time, like, why me? You know, I'm this white woman from New York. Why would you choose this me to tell your story? And she would always tell me that's why, to show what two women who share the same compassionate spirit can accomplish when they come together. And that ultimately, you know, we are more the same than we are different. You know, we're all sort of the same, different lights that come onto the same pearl of the planet. So it's been a very transformational book for me. It's changed my life, and I'm hoping that people that read it will kind of be able to change their lives in more positive ways and open their heart. It's a book that brings you into your heart chakra. So if you can open your heart and go into it, you'll have all these little secrets in there. And I think that Ayelet's book is very similar in that I think we share a lot of the same messages and the same kind of energetic frequencies that are hoping for people to awaken. But mine's just told in a novel. I mean, that's the way she wanted to communicate. So it's been quite a journey, and I'm very grateful for having been the one that she chose to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I have read it a number of times, and Tim's like one is, you know, Tim introduced me to your body of work, and
yes, Tim has been. I want to thank Tim because Tim has really, you know, when this book came out, I was in the middle of 24/7 care of 9 years taking care of my mother. And I don't know how I got it out. I indie published it for a number of reasons, which is too long to go in now, but it was the right decision to make. It came out. I couldn't do anything with it. And it turned out my first review on Amazon was from an Anglican priest in England who somehow stumbled upon the book on Twitter and downloaded it and read it and loved it. But otherwise, I didn't have any time to do promotion. And I had just met Tim, and Tim had read it and he loved it. And he was very compassionate and very kind, and he helped bring it out to people that I never would have got it out there, and I really got inspired that first year to enter a bunch of book awards, and luckily it won all of them, and so that was the first time I thought the book was any good. I was afraid to get it out. I thought the book sucked. I really thought it was awful, and I couldn't get anyone I knew to read it. I mean, I don't know whether you had the same. I don't know you had the same experience, but I literally couldn't get anyone in my family. None of my friends would read it, so I didn't know it was any good until I started winning the awards. And even then, you know, I think we tend to believe the worst of us. So I wasn't sure whether they were just being nice to me or whether they liked it. But you know, the book's been out a few years now, and it keeps evolving with the times. And like your book, it's very much a book of the times, and it's very much a book for someone who is going through any kind of transition in their life and really struggling to try to figure out who they are and where they're going in the world. And I'm hoping that it goes further. And I like, but you know, Tim really, he gave it to people, he gifted it to people. The book loves to be given as a gift. It just wants to find the biggest hearts on the planet. And Tim, being one of the biggest hearts on the planet, he was able to find those other hearts, and it was it was very helpful to me, because at the time I said I was in the midst of 24/7 care of my mother, and I barely could pick my head up from that. And anyone who's been a caregiver for anyone knows that you go down a rabbit hole that you don't know whether you're ever going to come out of. And when I finally came out of it, which was really just a year ago, you know, now I'm prepared to participate back in the world that I began in, which was all about the world of consciousness. And anyone who knows me, I've been on this path for about 30 years, and I'm ready to help that book kind of come out again and find the right people.
You know, I don't know if well, thank you, first of all, for Lynnda for saying all that, because that just fills my heart, and one of the reasons why I do. But I don't know if I ever told you this, but you gave me that book right when I first met you. And
yeah.
I remember bringing it home, and my wife looked at it and said, "What is that?" And I said, "Oh, I met this author, and she gave me a copy of her book, but it's a fiction book." And my wife's like, "You don't read fiction." And I'm like, "I know." but I'm going to give it a go. I'll probably read the first couple chapters and, tell her I at least gave it an effort, and it was just one of those books that I just couldn't put down. I just wanted to, because like you were describing, you resonate so much, and you intertwine with the story, and almost it becomes your story in your own way.
Everyone thinks it's their story. It's amazing how many messages I've got from people from different races, different ages, and they're all Addie Mae. I mean, they just feel like they're Addie Mae. So she becomes this chameleon, this sort of heart-based chameleon that helps bring people safely. I think if this had been written as a self-help book, it would have been harder for people to take it in, but because it's a novel, it's almost like a Trojan horse. You think you're reading a nice little story, and next thing you know, you're crying because she's touching you in a way, in a place in your heart that you didn't expect to go, and that you probably wouldn't have gone on purpose.
This is what I love most. Sometimes I forget like we're on camera, and I wish like we were just all, I don't know who's watching or viewing, and I wish I did, but we all have these incredible stories, and when we do connect from the heart, it all blends in. And for me, I'm really struggling right now. Writing 3 books is a little crazy, and they're all coming out. And there was a point where I was just like, maybe I won't publish them. Maybe I think this is what everybody kind of goes through. But then when I look at it as being a life calling of really, how do we come together? I don't know. I've seen this future of us really not having to like censor people and bring people down and do things for the lowest common denominator, which is where the current model is. We've designed all these systems, all these things, because of the lowest common denominator. And I'm tired of it. I wanna find places where we can co-create and not have to take anyone down. And I don't know, for me, growing up around physical war, for some people it's their parents fighting when they're 3, really impacted me. I've always been a big advocate for dialogue. And I'm really asking for help here on this virtual chat, not just from you, but from anybody who's listening, for ideas, because I've read all the articles about how to get influencers and blah, blah, blah. And all that just doesn't really resonate with me. It's as though like, I've threatened people. I know that I'm just going to put the books out in the world and go hide in a little hut on the ocean. And I know that it's demanding me, like the book is asking everyone who's experiencing it to find your voice and step into your power. And so the only way we're going to do it is together. I had a call last week, just an amazing call with someone who reached out to me on LinkedIn. And he said to me, I can't imagine that someone like you would have a call with me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, and he told me this harrowing story of what he's creating in the world because of what he thought was a suicide of a sister. And it was, I didn't even look at the clock, and we helped each other and we connected. And so I think the more that we put down the barriers of the status, of the celebrity, of that, wanting to be the best. I mean, I've met so many best-selling authors, and it's fleeting. Like, is the goal really to be number one? How long does it last? And I've worked in some of the highest levels of business and also in the world. I've met a lot of people, and I've seen more loneliness in the affluent world of wanting more and more and more, versus the amazing youth that taught me so much in some of the biggest slums in the world, who had the biggest hearts. But I think part of it is the adversity that we feel. And the more adversity we have, the more we're willing to put down the manual of success and try things. I think that was the notion of entrepreneurism at some point. But, you know, the thing that we haven't understood is that, you know, you can't look at a tomato plant, plant the seed in the ground, and then tell it to grow. And yet we're expecting everything in our life to grow in this fast food culture. And so we need to take a step and really remember that we're part of this nature. And for me, the trusting of the currents, because I'm such an ocean freak, is I just feel the vibration of the waves coming, and knowing that, you know, every one of us who is here right now has had some level of wounding, some level of trauma, some hardships. But also there's this opportunity to play. Like, play is not just for children, you know, but there's this like thing about growing up, and when you grow up, you have to be responsible, and then responsible is blah, blah, blah. And I'm just saying, fuck it. Like, how do we create in the world a different way, a different story, and healthy ways? You know, somebody, I went literally in the book, and every time, and I probably didn't find all of it, but every time that I find the word new or better or whatever, I'm really trying to change it to healthy, because to me, there's nothing new. You know, I quote a lot of people because I want to show that we build on each other. It's not to show that I'm smart or something, but I want to bring the intelligence of people in all walks of life that have done bodies of work and say, hey, as all of you have said, we're all the same underneath it all, and we can come together to create what's possible. And I am just so looking for help. Thank you for Ari for coming on and kind of inspiring me with what you contribute here, is also to help us. I mean, both Lynnda and I, and Tim's going to be soon, are both, we self-publish. There's no one behind us. I mean, there are a lot of people behind us, don't get us wrong, but there's not like big companies behind us, you know, guiding us throughout this. We're doing the best we can, which is all we can do. And so if you have ideas of more conversations, more places, not the traditional ones, what I'm asking for is some crazy ideas. My thing is that, think about it, 2% of the 7.7 billion people on the planet, I'm not good in math, but I think that's about 16 million people, are ready for this. And, you know, in the traditional publishing sense, I read that, you know, success means that you sold 300 books. I wanted to get to a point where this book, especially when the third one comes around, that we're able to offer it to open hearts and minds in different ways. And there is a cost for it, because in the current world, we don't value things unless they have a price associated with them. But ultimately, I'd love to be able to spread this to as many people who are ready. And that's what I'm looking for. It's not a traditional demographic. Like Lynnda said, you know, you could be young, you could be old, you could be a man, a woman, you could be anywhere in the world, and you resonate with her book, Trusting the Currents. I think it's the same thing with this trilogy. Is, again, mine is a little bit more restrictive, because I'm sure some kids don't, well, maybe they will want to put a book that says fuck on the cover on the dining room table. I don't know. But how do we get this conversation going? So I'm so open to ideas, and I'm so open to further dialogue with anybody who's listening, and with anybody who's resonating, because the goal is really for us to create a healthy world and create a healthy life. And thank you for listening.
You know, I think
Also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
A comment. I think, your book, and my book too, but your book, it's like finding the fireflies out there. It's not a demographic. It's not even too much a psychographic. It's literally like the lights in the world. It's usually the people who will resonate with these books are the people who are generally the light in their world. So it's try to find some way of identifying and helping these people discover the book, but they are the fireflies that are out there shining their light wherever they are. And I think that's an important, way of trying to like get people to the right people, the people who will really resonate with it, because it really is a frequency resonate. You have to resonate with it, and you'll know as soon as you start reading it whether you resonate with it or not. And if you resonate with it, you'll be taking on a journey that will transform the way you look at your life and the way you look at the world.
I was going to say, I think it's as simple as looking at the title of it, and if that doesn't resonate with you, it's probably not for you.
I have a few thoughts. One is sort of maybe that these kinds of conversations are great, but I think that there's something called a charrette, kind of like a sort of intense co-design kind of thing, and it's maybe over a day or a few days. And that could be something, is just sort of see who's out there. And I firmly believe that the right people will always show up. I saw this notification a minute before I decided to join in with you guys. And I think maybe if we're able to design something that has a little bit more structure and that really is focused toward the output. And then just have fun with it. Like you said, play and just, come and say, hey, this is what we're looking at. This is what we're trying to solve. What do you guys think? Hackathon, but for our specific, goal kind of thing. And I think really, and I've been telling this to myself as well, because I've just launched a new vision for the think tank for Hug Train last week. And, it's really about remembering that the right people will show up and trusting that. So, it's not, and like you said, it's not going to reach, it's not for everyone. Not everyone gets it, and running Hug Train, I totally understand that. But I think if we're able to make it accessible to more people, whether it's by what we're suggesting that they do, or by just, producing content that's consumable or easily consumable for them, I think those are the kinds of ideas. I know those are pretty standard, and also a thought in my head, there's a few things. So, right, there's a book club that got started as a result of our memorial for Liz Strauss a few weeks ago. So maybe those are books that could be part of that book club. And also maybe there is some value for building some sort of community around the book. So it's beyond the book. What do I do after I've read this book? How do I connect? And how do I connect with others and hear their stories and work together? I think, for you guys, since you sold the book and then there's a pathway into connecting, I think there's a lot of books you can think of that actually have that kind of support behind them. I know some of them are like diet books or whatever, but I think maybe that's an idea. It could be a big investment, but it doesn't have to be. It can be kind of basic. But yeah, those are, I'm throwing some ideas at you. I think some of them are pretty conventional, but I think at the same time, it's, anyway, I was trying to help.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I am, when I finish the third book in 2021, I'm planning to bring people together to build a platform. I've been waiting for someone to build it, and they haven't yet, but it's really more of an ecosystem. And so I saw a question there about how we find each other. This is what I'm hoping that this heartpickings.com that will be available sometime in 2021 will do, and profile different people. And I don't even want to run it. I want to be like creating it and then bring the people in and find someone else to run it. But it's like these books. When I was going on my journey, I struggled to find any information that was helpful, and I felt really alone. And so going through what I'm going through, I wrote them because I felt a responsibility that I am someone. And, I could easily have sat back and taken another job and done something else. But that would have been too easy. And so These things are coming together. And so again, if we can find a way to reach out, and Tim's been so instrumental as my partner over the years with, I think we came up with Creating Is, I don't even remember in what year, but it's really going to take off or it is taking off now, of bringing the powerful creators in the world. And Tim, I know you have a constraint of having to leave, so I am very conscious of the time. Would you like to wrap up with a couple of words? And I just want to thank everybody, and please connect and let's have conversations. That's the only way we're going to do it. I am tired of leading with structure. We're in this mess because we're leading with structure all the time. It's time for us to find our power, our voice, understand why you came to this planet, and come together or do it alone. But let's stop the blaming, shaming, and judging, and really find the centerness in our heart to connect with ourselves and connect with each other.
Well, I want to thank everybody for just showing up and being here. This was like so enjoyable. It was like we were just around, having a cup of coffee or tea together and just really just having a nice conversation and inviting everybody to watch in. And Christelle, I hope I get your name right. I know Ayelet addressed it a little bit, but I think truly if you read the book, it will help you a lot in understanding the power that you have to be able to share your voice and to know that. And, Lynnda, what you said about the fireflies and not there being the demographic, I was just having a conversation with an old friend earlier today, and she was sharing how, she just knew that there was something more. Her next change wasn't going to be doing something for somebody else and giving her power away. It was going to be doing something for herself. And I think that's like the type of people who this book is for. It's about people that are knowing there's something more out there, but they're not sure how to do it. And this isn't do A, B, C, and you'll get there. It's just showing you the light and the ways that are possible, not the ways that are possible. So I just want to really thank everybody. And again, if you haven't bought the book, just visit ayeletbaron.com/books, and please leave a review once you do get the book, because that is always what gets it to other people more than anything. And if you do need a copy of the book and you just can't afford it, or you're not in a position to be able to get it right now, just please send me a message, regardless of where you are on Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Send me a message and we will work it out and make sure that you get a copy of the book. This isn't about, making money. It's about touching other people's lives, and that's what we're here for. So thank you all for being here today.
Thanks.